Let's start with the non-negotiable part. February 15, 2026 is the hard deadline for version 19.6. The Pi Core team has made it explicitly clear that this is mandatory. All mainnet nodes must complete this upgrade to remain active on the network. Here's what happens if you miss it. You get disconnected. Your node stops receiving network data. You can't validate transactions. You can't participate in consensus. You're essentially offline from a protocol perspective. This isn't a suggestion. This isn't a strongly recommend. This is a your node will no longer function situation. The original deadline was February 12th, 3 days ago, but the core team extended it to February 15th because of network congestion and technical issues that emerged during the initial rollout phase. This tells you something important. The team is being transparent about what's happening. They're not hiding problems. They're acknowledging that a network this size, with 60 million users, has coordination challenges. 60 million people. That's not a small testnet anymore. That's a live network with real scale. Upgrading 60 million people's nodes simultaneously creates real strain. That's why the team asked node operators to stagger their upgrades instead of all hitting the network at once. This is network infrastructure thinking. It's not about speed, it's about stability. You want upgrades to happen gradually so the network doesn't experience sudden traffic spikes that could cause cascading failures. You space them out. You roll them in waves. You monitor the system as different portions of the network update. The fact that they extended the deadline 3 days shows they're managing this process carefully. They're not rushing. They're not pushing a deadline that will break the network. They're giving operators time to complete upgrades without causing system-wide strain. So, what's actually changing with V19.6? This upgrade moves the system from V19.1 to V19.6. On the surface, that's a minor version bump. In reality, it's a stability and security hardening release. The core improvements are improved stability, preparing the network infrastructure for future phases, enhanced consensus mechanism refinements, and security patches. This is foundational work. It's not flashy, it's not exciting for headlines, but it's critical for the network to function properly at scale. Okay, so think of it like structural repairs to a building. You're not adding new floors, you're reinforcing the foundation. You're fixing load-bearing walls. You're making sure, the building can handle increased occupancy without collapsing. My network currently has around 60 million users. As that number grows, the network has to handle proportionally more transaction volume, more consensus validation, and more node coordination. Version 19.6 is preparing the infrastructure for that growth. The upgrade also supports Pi's goal of gradual decentralization. So, what does that mean practically? It means moving from a centralized core team operation toward a network where distributed nodes actually govern and validate. You can't decentralize without upgrading the node infrastructure first. You need reliable consensus mechanisms. You need nodes that can handle higher workloads. You need the system to stay stable under stress. This version 19.6 release is, honestly, one of the stepping stones toward that goal. So, the core team has also emphasized that this is just the first step in a multi-phase process. After version 19.6, more upgrades are going to follow in quick succession. Each one is going to add new features and technical fixes. Each one moves the needle toward a more robust, decentralized system. But, version 19.6 specifically focuses on stabilizing the current network state, patching security issues, optimizing transaction validation, and making sure node coordination doesn't break under stress. The original deadline was February 12th, then it got pushed to February 15th. 3 days might not sound like much, but in network infrastructure, 3 days is actually pretty significant. It means something went wrong with the initial rollout and the team decided to pause, assess, and give operators more time. Here's what likely happened. The version 19.6 release went live. Operators started upgrading. The network started experiencing congestion as thousands of nodes tried to update simultaneously. Maybe there were cascading failures. Maybe the system experienced unexpected bottlenecks. Maybe certain node types encountered compatibility issues. Instead of forcing operators through a broken process and hitting the original deadline, the core team said, let's extend this. Let's give operators 3 more days. Let's stagger the upgrades. Let's make sure the process is actually stable before we force a mandatory cutoff. This is the right call. It's the professional call. It shows maturity in how they're managing the network. But it also tells you something else. Running a network at this scale is hard. You can plan everything perfectly on paper, you can run tests, you can model different scenarios, but when you activate an upgrade that touches 60 million nodes, reality is always messier than the simulation. The fact that they're being transparent about this, communicating the extension, explaining the reasoning, giving operators more time, that builds trust, that shows they're prioritizing network stability over hitting arbitrary deadlines. If they had forced the February 12th deadline and the network broke, that would be catastrophic for adoption. Instead, they're doing the careful thing, the slow thing, the right thing. Let's talk about what nodes actually do in the Pi network, because, understanding this context really makes the upgrade mandatory nature make sense. Pi nodes run on personal computers instead of mobile phones. They perform transaction validation and help maintain consensus across the entire blockchain. Unlike Bitcoin or Ethereum, which use proof-of-work mining, Pi uses something called the Stellar Consensus Protocol. It's a different approach. In proof-of-work, miners compete to solve cryptographic puzzles. The first one to solve it gets to add the next block. It's energy-intensive, but honestly, cryptographically sound. In Stellar Consensus Protocol, nodes form trusted groups. These groups communicate with each other. They reach agreement on transaction order and validity. It's more efficient than proof of work. It requires less energy, but it does require more coordination between nodes. That coordination is why upgrades matter so much. If nodes are running different versions of the protocol, they might disagree on consensus. They might fork. They might become unable to communicate effectively. So, when the core team mandates an upgrade, they're not doing it arbitrarily. They're doing it because consensus requires all nodes to be running compatible software. So, Pi's network actually has 3 participation tiers. At the lowest level, you have the basic desktop app users. Then, right in the middle, there are the regular nodes. And at the very top, you've got the super nodes, which, honestly, carry a special responsibility. They handle the really critical consensus processes. Plus, supernodes have to stay online all day, every day. They're, the backbone of the entire network. If supernodes don't upgrade, the consensus mechanism, well, it just breaks down. And if regular nodes don't upgrade, they simply can't keep up with the changes to consensus. Running old software, that makes them incompatible, plain and simple. That's why the deadline here is, non-negotiable. It's not about forcing people to upgrade, really. It's about making sure the network stays intact. So, when the team says nodes that fail to update could be disconnected, they're not actually threatening operators. They're just describing the technical reality. Nodes running incompatible protocol versions can't communicate with the upgraded network. They literally become unable to function. February 15th is just the first domino, honestly. After V19.6 completes, here's what the roadmap looks like. February 27th brings the V19.9 upgrade. That's 11 days after V19.6. The team isn't giving operators much breathing room here. They're stacking upgrades in quick succession. So, this likely means that version 19.9 is either dependent on version 19.6, or, it was ready for release, and they just decided to bundle it with the upgrade cycle. March 12th, version 20.2 upgrade. That's 2 weeks after version 19.9. Now we're jumping from the 19 series to the 20 series. That's usually a bigger version bump, which suggests, more substantial changes. New features probably come with version 20.2, maybe new consensus rules, maybe new node capabilities. These 3 upgrades in less than a month show that the core team has built a comprehensive plan for network evolution. They're not just doing one-off patches here, they're executing a coordinated sequence. This is significant because it really shows maturity. It shows the team has planned out where the network needs to go, and they're executing systematically. The goal of this upgrade sequence is to make the network more stable, support gradual decentralization, prepare for higher transaction volume, add new features progressively, and, strengthen security continuously. After March 12th, there will probably be more upgrades. But the core team is focused on getting the foundation right first. Versions 19.6 through 20.2 are about solidifying the infrastructure that versions 21, 22, and 23 will build on. This is long-term thinking. This is not hype-driven development. This is infrastructure building. So, if you're running a Pi node and, this information is helpful, go ahead and like this video right now. Just one click. It really helps the algorithm and, honestly, it reaches more node operators who need to understand these deadlines before they lose connection. Plus, share this video with other node operators They might not be following this as closely. They might not even realize the deadline shifted to February 15th. Some might think they have more time. Seriously, they need to see this before they miss the deadline. Alright, here's the practical action list. First, if you're running a node, log into your Pi Network node interface today. Check your current version. If you're still on version 19.1, you need to start the upgrade process immediately. Second, don't wait until February 14th. Don't wait until February 13th. Start now. The team specifically asked operators to stagger upgrades. That means, spreading them out over the next few days to avoid congestion. Early is definitely better than waiting until the last minute. Third, if you're a supernode operator, you should prioritize this even more aggressively. Your node is critical to consensus, and getting upgraded early helps the network stabilize. Fourth, monitor the upgrade process. Don't just click upgrade and walk away. Stay available during the upgrade window. Make sure your node comes back online successfully. Test connectivity. Verify you're on version 19.6. Fifth, after version 19.6 completes, mark your calendar for February 27th and March 12th. These will be mandatory too. Get ahead of them. Don't wait for deadline extensions again. The community is already sharing guides and reminders. Find those. Use them. They're written by operators who've already gone through this process. They'll help you avoid mistakes. The core team has also emphasized patience during the process. Technical issues might emerge. Some operators might experience temporary connectivity problems. That's normal during large network updates. Stay patient. Help troubleshoot if you encounter issues. Report problems to the core team. Node operators who complete version 19.6 on time will remain connected as the network enters its next phase. Now, node operators who miss the February 15th deadline risk disconnection. That's not a threat, it's just how the network protocol works. So, make your choice accordingly. The deadline is February 15th. Thank you for watching this breakdown. Whether you're running a node, planning to run one, or just following Pi Network's development, understanding these mandatory upgrades is honestly critical. They're not optional, they're not political, they're technical necessities for keeping the network operational and secure. Pi Network is moving from a testnet mentality toward real mainnet infrastructure. That means upgrades are going to become more frequent, and deadlines are definitely going to be firm. Node operators are going to have more responsibility too. If you want to stay ahead of these updates, if you want to know about upgrades before deadlines arrive, before community panic sets in, before those last-minute rushes, stay subscribed. We're tracking Pi's development roadmap closely, and we're breaking down what each update means for node operators. Check out the other videos on TJ Crypto World. We've got deep dives on node operation, the Stellar Consensus Protocol, network security, and everything else you need to understand how Pi actually works beyond the marketing. I really appreciate you watching. I appreciate the node operators keeping this network alive, and I'll see you in the next update breakdown.